Welcome, coaches. Thanks for joining us today. Not only do we have our Ontario HP coaches with us today, but we've got coaches from across Canada as well, because in discussing with Silver and Carps and Winnie, not only are the Ontario Junior Blues feeders for the Toronto Arrows, but also is the rest of Canada. And we see that with the makeup of the Arrows team now. So again, the game plan for today, we've booked in like an hour and a half, and we're going to have our presenter go through defense today. And then at the back end, we'll take lots of questions. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Aaron Carpenter. Aaron is a Brantford Harlequin, born and bred, went to Brantford CVI and OFSA champion his last year. And everybody in Ontario, if you're a high school guy from Ontario, you know what that means. That's a big part of your life because it's with all your buddies you grew up with, and a lot of work went into that. He was also an Ontario Junior Blue for 4 years, as well as even made a token appearance with the Senior Blues in preparation for a World Cup 1 year. And also on top of all of that, he also played 9 years of professional rugby in Europe, 3 World Cups, the most capped player in Canada, and scored over 42 tries in England too. I don't even know if he knows that. But yeah, well done, Carps. So without further ado, today, Arrows defense, Aaron Carpenter.
Yeah, first of all, guys, I'd just like to say thank you for having me onto the webcast here. It's a huge honor. I take these opportunities as a chance for me to develop myself as a presenter, because that's not always been a strength of mine. So I take these chances to get better at what I'm trying to do and the message I'm trying to get across to you guys. Like I said to Con, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to share with you what I do know and try and make us all better as a unit, right? So I built a little bit of a presentation. I have a lot of, I have a lot of time for the Ontario system because I came through it, right? So I've worked with a lot of you guys as coaches and administrators, and I know the good you do to try and create better systems within Rugby Canada, better rugby players, better people, all the way through. So I got a lot of time for this, and I'm willing to help in whatever way I can. So I hope you enjoy my presentation. We'll just get it going. And yeah, if I start talking too fast or my kids run into the basement, just bear with me to gather my thoughts, and we'll continue on with the presentation. So this is my defense presentation. So the first part is just why I promote systems. Because I've been through the ringer of defense. Defense is all an individual thing. You just have to work on your one-on-one tackling, and we're going to be a great defensive unit. I think that's kind of moved out of the wayside, and now teams are more understanding. There's not bad tacklers at the highest levels. There's just bad defensive systems that put you under more pressure and leave you feeling exposed, and that's when missed tackles come. Why I promote the systems is because I've been there when I'm absolutely hooped on a rugby field. It's really easy to default to a system rather than trying to think about 4 different things in a situation. So if in doubt and we're down numbers, jockey's the call. Someone nails it. We're all in. We're all on board. We can just shape to the edge, push the team out there, and then take a breath and then go again once we're on the sideline. It just gives clarity to our roles and responsibilities. If we're always in the same scenarios and we know the roles that each player is intended to take in those scenarios, it really takes away a lot of the question marks that come around in defensive scenarios. And then players can't come back to you as a coach and go, I needed that clarity. I needed that clarity. And I'll probably contradict myself later on when we talk about making reads and stuff like that. And I allow some of that freedom, but then I kind of come back to them at the end of that and be like, no, here's the role and responsibility. If you make it, yes, congratulations, but maybe you should have stuck to what we've talked about in our defensive training session. And maybe we got away with one there, and we'll look to improve after we review. Like I said, at a high level, it's tough because there shouldn't be poor technique, but if there is, using that individual time to work on those poor techniques listen, even amongst the arrows, I still have some guys that their number one focuses for me are on the defensive side of the ball, either looking for more tackles or working on the technique, the chop technique. And like I said earlier, with poor systems and adherence to them, that leads to the misses you see onto the fields. And the best systems are simple and they're easy to conform to. So we shouldn't get too complicated. There are times where I've been trying some stuff with sending one player on individual raids to try and take away like a particular move that I see a team do. But for the most part, it's either the blitz system or the jockey system. So just for me, I like to compare it with the team ethos of the defense that I run, the defending in threes. You're trusting your teammates, and I like to compare it to the Greek phalanx, where I watched 300, thought it was a sweet movie, and you got to trust in the guy next to you has the shield, correct, and he's protecting you from any attacks, and you can then thrust with your spear, right? So it's having that mentality that you trust the guy inside and outside you to do their jobs. And if we all do that across the entire line, there's no way through our line, all right? And that comes into our defending in threes mentality, where we're just a set of individual threes and it passes down the line. I got your inside, I got your outside. And then if the ball moves one spot over, then it just continues down the line. And I really like that example, and I really like to promote that amongst my team. Now, this is the normal standard blitz defense, and you can see that the red players are defense, blue are in the attack, and the angle from the defenders are they pull their width in defense, and then they blitz in onto the attack. The only thing that I don't like about that system is that you are forced to turn your hips in, and a really good attack can manipulate you to bring your defense in and then attack that outside of the defense, all right? Policies within the system, how do you add the right policies? Should you encourage debate around those policies? Are you adaptable within your systems? Is there one correct set of policies, and how do we cover every possible situation? These are just some of the questions that I ask myself all the time, and I encourage you guys to ask them amongst your team, amongst your own self when you talk about the philosophy of how you do coaching. One, how do you add the right policies? Listen, like I've said to Con before we started this, there's no 100% right policies, but just the consistency of your messaging. If it's consistent and they buy into it, then it's worthwhile, right? And as long as it stays consistent and they see the results that are happening on the pitch when things go right, then they'll buy into it, right? So should you encourage debate around the policies? I don't. I think you can, to a certain extent. You can take some feedback, but not in front of the entire team or group, because then it just leads to what me and Con talked about again before, a lot of debate. You don't get accomplished what you're trying to get accomplished out of a session. Everybody's got an idea about how to run things. I try not to be within my coaching an authoritarian coach, but there's times and places where I have to just cut the cord and go, this is the way we're doing it. This is how we're moving forward. Please get on board, or we will find someone who will. Are you adaptable within your systems? Yes, like I told you, I find some adaptation within it where I look to send a shooter out, or I look to manipulate with that 9. Is there one set of correct policies? I don't think so. I think, like I said, you just get really keen on what you're trying to produce to the players, and as long as you're confident in what you're promoting, the confidence will run through the entire group, and they'll buy into it, and they'll see the benefits of all being on the same page. And the last one, how do we cover every possible situation? We can't. And question more whether you can cover every opportunity without losing something in the defensive, the attack of how we defend, and covering those chips. So trusting players' reads, like rugby is a dynamic game, and I've come from playing lots of rugby. I know it has lots of changing parts happening at all time. The picture changes when players get caught in tough choices. Just having the confidence in them, in the choices they make, and then just look for the improvements in that review process, and then just a big part of it is trying to replicate those tough scenarios into your training sessions, so you get more comfortable defending in tough scenarios where you're on a 2-on-1 near your goal line, you're facing 7v2 defenders, and you just got to jockey all the way to the edge, pushing off each player. So the only thing that comes next is when we get within 5 meters of our defensive try line, my defense completely changes. And that's the only time, maybe 10 meters out, depending on what we're doing in the game, where the score line is. And I put all bets are off, and we're flying off the line, and we're making really tough reads under extreme pressure. All right. So let's move on to tackle technique, and I really promote this one low, one high, with the high guy affecting the ball. And you can see a bit of an example of it in this picture. The low tackle guy, I wouldn't promote his technique there. He's lost his feet, so he has no power left in this tackle. But the number one here that's coming in, he's going to affect onto that ball, maybe look for a rip. This is my jam player, the number one. And so he's coming in with 4 options that I speak about when I talk about, when I speak in defensive terms. He can come in and affect the ball, which is get underneath that nose of that ball and really rip violently back towards our own line, so it's not considered a knock-on, and try and get the ball back. The other option he has is if the 9 stays on his feet and stays underneath the ball carrier, he can choke tackle that player, which is just get under that ball, lock onto it, create a maul, and we hold it in there for 3 seconds, and then it creates a maul, and then if the ball goes to deck and is unusable, then it becomes a turnover to us. His third option is the jackal, so he can come into this tackle, rip the player down to the deck, make a clear release, and go over the ball. Now, this technique is becoming a lot more difficult, especially within MLR. They've allowed it a little bit more this season, but last season they were very rarely awarding this for us, so we looked for other opportunities, which was more the last option, which is what I would say he throws the guy down to the floor, and then he just looks to take the space in behind, go past the Irish player, and take that meter of space. And then if other players around him siege, then 2 or 3 other players go with him and take that space, and we win that counter ruck, which they were more apt to allow within last season. So that's my policy, but this is one area where I did expand on my policy. So there's also another option, is that he just stays out of that tackle, that the ball does a really good job, makes a good tackle, jam just stays out, and then we have the hunt coming in, and the hunt can also go on to the ball, all right, if he sees it, because in my system it's always 2 in 2 fold, right? So if the 2 is the ball and the hunt, or the ball and the jam, as long as it's 2 in, they're slowing down the ball, they're creating a bit of a shit fight, as you will, amongst the attack. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So I don't care how it gets accomplished. And originally I was very hard and fast saying, no, the hunt never goes in, he just gets around the corner, we promote the width. But eventually I found that most of the steals statistically come from that man. So I started to allow it, as long as I didn't start seeing 3 players into rucks. As soon as 3 players start getting into rucks, we lower our ability to bring line speed, because we don't have men on our feet. We're just throwing. We're not using our numbers efficiently. So it's the same with the counter ruck. We're only going to go. We take a shot at it, and we're only going to go if we get the rewards off of it. And that's around my training with the guys, is about seeing those pictures. I do a lot of work on counter or concede, right? So seeing the picture, okay, it's slow ball, we have a chance to counter. There's maybe a back in there or 2 backs in there. We can counter with a couple forwards that can get lower than those guys and look for that. But other than that, we just want to promote 13 men on our feet, bring in line speed, and trying to knock the opposition back. Because my big belief is if we get 3 or 4 phases in a row where we knock the opposition backwards, they're going to kick the ball or they're going to turn it over because they're under so much pressure. So I have a couple videos later about, I think right after this, about what staying square means to me. And my biggest the thing I'm looking for here is the staying square is the big reason I think it is important in terms of defending is that as soon as we turn our hips, you can't recover. Like with the speed of the game that it is today, as soon as you turn your hips in and they do a pull ball, which is like hitting the forwards and pulling it out, we can't get out to that space that we've just turned. It takes 2 or 3 seconds to turn our body and try and get back to that space we just missed. All right. So what we're doing is in terms of staying square, what I want to see is what I promote from in the defensive system is staying square. So staying hips towards the try line and then only adjusting once the player is giving you a visual cue in order to do so. So for me, that's tucking the ball, or for me, that's the other cue is your ball player that's inside of you has engaged the attacker. So if the ball player beside you engages the attacker, then it's free reign, because I feel like that's a harder skill level to ride that tackle, be in the midst of it, and then try and get an offload away. So this is, for me, the picture of it staying square is being able to cover both options. So here we just have our low chop is our 1, and the attacker is in blue, and he's coming in between those 2 players, right? And it's about being able to, as the number 2, being able to jam onto the attacker if he gets in and our 1 makes the low chop, or if he tips it on to the support player, being able to become the low chop tackle, and then the 3 becomes the jam. All right, so it's staying square until the attacker tucks the ball under his arm. If he tucks it under his arm, then 2's going to come in, and he's the guy that adds the venom to the tackle. Our 1's making a nice low chop tackle, stopping his momentum, and then the 2's coming in to wipe him out. And that happens in a large proportion of the tackles we see in modern rugby today, right? And then every once in a while, we get the opposite scenario coming where I say if A steps back inside to the 1, that he bounces up and he kind of becomes that high tackle, and the guy inside would become the low chop tackle.
I think, again, we haven't done this presentation with you before. Perhaps we should take questions during the videos, because the videos are really pulling in all the things you're outlining.
No problem.
Because I know Aaron Tackle had a specific question just on a line break, just like that. So Tack, if you want to ask that question to Aaron, please.
Yeah. Hi, Aaron. I guess what I'm seeing is we're talking a lot about when the attack is in front of us.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt. Maybe you're coming to it, so I don't know what's coming up. But I'm just really curious about what happens when the attack gets behind you, and then do you have any policies around that? So that's my question. If you're coming to it, we'll leave it for later. But
no, yeah, I really didn't touch on that. It's a good question, Aaron. I try to avoid those scenarios if that's the best answer I can come up with you. I rep more transitional defense more than I rep scramble defense, and I kind of just off the scramble, I just try and promote that we stay in our channels and don't try not to bite in, right? Like, because then it's just if we all run into the honeybee effect and then have to promote our width after that, then it's too late. Then that's where the teams are going to attack. And we'll see a clip later, because I'm going to, at the end of the presentation, show the 10 tries that have been scored against us. And one of them is very similar to that. And I think that comes into a scenario where you got to make reads, right? So you're near the goal line, they made a line break, and maybe you're short numbers. Maybe we should have just gone and finished it off and not tried to push to an edge or made it easy for them. But to answer your question, I don't really practice scramble D and have many policies on it. The only policy is get back in your channels and work your butts off, and hopefully somebody makes it work. But as we haven't given up that many line breaks that lead into those kind of scenarios, so I don't know if that's the system or not. And when we have given them up, we work back hard and just try and work until you get that turnover. So just another question, if you guys feel free to answer. If not, what determines your ability to bring line speed? Line speed is something that's banded about all the time, but there's certain factors that are very important to determine whether we can come off that line and put teams under pressure. And I'm just wondering what you guys think some of those might be.
How quick the ball's recycled?
Yeah, that's number one. Yep.
My favorite was what I stole from Butch, is that wrap equals line speed. So just the ability to realign at pace.
Yeah, no, yeah. I say it a little bit differently. It's just ability to get to width, right? Anybody else?
There's a few that came in the chat, being in position and numbers.
Yeah, so yeah, I got a couple more here. It's just ruck speed, which we obviously had there from one of the guys. And a big one we promote now is back in the game, right? So if you make a tackle and you're in that 2-in, it's how quickly you can get back in the game and affect the ruck, maybe slow the ball down, or if it's not an opportunity and they already won it, how you get back in that defensive line and add another number to our defensive system. And then realign at pace. Speed of realignment to width is the way I put it. It's a question that I deal with a lot. Is it, how do we deal with a 9 in motion? Is there anybody that has a specific policy or has an idea on that?
Based off your system, is that the attack's job?
No, I'm just talking in defense. So if we're defending and the 9 starts running across field, most defensive units, and I've worked in a few, that they say as soon as that 9 runs, we all just smash down and it becomes a blitz defense and everybody comes in and shuts down anything around there. I'm hesitant to go there because I think attack is getting better and there's more options than there's ever been. And the 9, I think he can still scoot and still throw it at the back to an attacking 10 or a winger and hit some of the seams that we create by once the 9 runs and we all come in and smash down onto it. We're all doing what? We're turning our hips, right? So it allows for gaps to be made, right? So the way I deal with that is that if the 9 runs, I have a policy, whereas we cut line speed. So what does the 9 want out of being in motion? What is his one goal? His one goal is to create one player to jump out of the line, usually the 2 or the 3, and to have a runner go into that and create. Like 9s don't want to get tackled. I've played with a lot of them, and there's very few that want to take that contact. They want to put another player into space and make themselves look like a hero. So what I promote is that the 2 doesn't go in. Nobody goes in. Everybody we come off that one step, 9's running, and we just sit there. And so we let them take a positive tackle in order to, one, you're going to, if it's the 9 that takes the tackle, he's going to be out of the play for a couple phases, so their attack's going to go to shit. And if 2, if he gives it to somebody and we take a negative, then we're just going to be in our shape for the next system. All attack is trying to do is manipulate us to shorten our line. And what we're trying to always maintain is that width in the line. So that's the constant battle between attack and defense, and trying to make teams look for mismatches and look for players coming out of the line. So all that I do around my defensive systems is trying to mitigate those scenarios. And if I was an attack coach, it would be the exact opposite. That's it. That's my presentation, guys. Thanks for having a listen, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And like we're all here just continually sharpening our axes and trying to get better and trying to improve. And I'll take any questions, any thoughts, any kind of ideas you might have, because listen, I'm trying to learn just as much as you guys are. And I think that's what coaching is. It's a constant learning process and a constant feedback loop with players, with other coaches, and with your administrators in order to get the best environments and the best techniques out of your players.
Aaron, what we're going to do now, if it's okay with you, if we could do about 10 minutes of formal questions, based on what you've presented. So if anybody has any specific questions based on what you've just seen, if you could, you know what, just click your mic off and let's ask them. I think we can organize it that way. So Aaron, why don't you come up? Aaron Tackle. Go ahead, Aaron.
Follow-up question would be, when you're designing your practices, what kind of cues are you looking to show them for them to make those decisions?
Yeah, so I give the attack a lot of freedom to run against our defense, and then I put them in those situations, and then so I do it in whole part kind of scenarios. So I'm making the part, I'm giving them situations where they we run like a 7v5 in defense, and the 9 is there in his pocket, and then they run against the 9 scooting or the 9 coming off, the 10 coming off. So it's just the scenario that that the attack chooses chooses the decision for the 9, if you get where I'm going to. And then and it's just mode of making that more often than not. And then when we play in a full 15 versus 15 scenario, is trying to see what decisions the 9 makes. And when they're there, and I find a lot in training, they get lazy and they don't make it look like the scenario it's going to look like on the game day, where they just fill into one before the balls even move, where I'd like it to be more fluid, and then the ball gets picked up and then they cover that hole. And then, because like if the 9 passes right off the deck, there's no question for the 9. He's just going straight away to the chip zone, and the blindside guard is coming around to cover that, because there's no threat in there at the immediate time. The only time there's a threat right at that one spot is if the 9 picks up and starts to run. Does that answer your question, Aaron?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you know, I think watching Phil Mack play a lot, I think he makes good decisions around plugging holes, not plugging holes. I quite like watching the decisions that he makes. So I was just curious around that area of the game. So thank you.
No problem. Yes. So, and then I've given the 9s freedom. Like if we're down a 5-on-3 or a 7-on-4, they can jump into the line and add some width to the defense, and we're going to lose the chip zone. And if a team notices that and gets us there, then I'm okay with it, because we just didn't give them an easy look, right? We didn't just stay in one scenario and go. And reading those pictures, I do a lot of stuff around, again, the whole, giving a team different defensive pictures coming around the corner, right? So I'll say that the attack always has 7, and then I'll just fold in 4, or a fold in 2, or a fold in 1. And that just gives the 9 a different picture where he's got to react to what he sees. So one time he's, oh shit, I got to fill in. The next time he's like, oh, we're fine numbers wise, I'll just stay in the second line. Or, oh, their 9 is scooting, I got to fill that hole. It just gives a different picture every time. I'm a big believer in, from my own, how I learned was seeing those pictures and learning how to react to them. And the more I saw it and did it at high speed, the easier it got.
Aaron, from the World Cup, what were your takeaways from some of the defensive systems that you saw there? I know I spent a lot of time watching 2 teams specifically, and
yeah, you're probably
I saw a lot of similarities in what you presented.
You're probably talking England and South Africa.
Yeah, for sure. And
I take a lot of inspiration from what those guys are doing. I think the only difference between the defense that I'm running right now and the defense South Africa has is just they have bigger men, right? So they make bigger collisions. They look to attack a little bit higher with that inside guy and try and I watched a video on Rassi. They try and tackle just under the ball, which is if you have the horses to go for it, I'm good with that. And I take a lot of inspiration from those 2 groups. And then the stuff that's going on with England is similar. I think they're a little bit narrower than I am, but they're similar. They're trying to come up and force you back to the inside, right? Trying to force those decisions, get into passing lanes, and don't just give. Most teams want to attack within the 15s, right? There's space out there. You've been told that your entire life. So just trying to shut those avenues off and force teams try to get there in uncomfortable ways, either kick passes or floating big passes, loopy passes over the top, which again, like I talked about, I think you can recover from and still make positive collisions.
We've had a number of conversations with our coaches. I really enjoyed watching their recognition of going from blitz to jockey, like just, again, working hard to get width in their defense, but recognizing the situation and then going into jockey right away and then trying to apply pressure when available.
I think a big thing to that, like, so staying square doesn't just mean when you're man on man in the tackle scenario, it's as you're moving as well, right? So we shuffle in, we shuffle out, so that you're always heads up looking at what's in front of you, right? Which is scanning the threats. I did a lot of work early on with scanning the threats. I didn't get into it in this presentation, but we also have a policy around on the blind side, having a +1 policy. So, but that only makes sense up to about 3 players. And as you get wider and wider away from that blind side, gets bigger and bigger, then you can add another player into it. But if you're into the 15, then you only need 2 players. If you're a little bit wider, then you add 3 if they have 2, right? So we did some work onto that, and just to not get guys stuck down that blind side. And I always had a big debate with guys. They're like, oh, but we're low numbers on the blind side. I'm like, I'm okay to give away a soft edge on the blind side in order to make it back up just another second later, because then the team's not going anywhere. They'll take 2 meters, then we'll take it back the next phase when we come off that line with all the venom and line speed that we come back. So, like, it's a hard place to play out of when you're stuck on the touch line. And that's around attacks not looking for that edge, playing in other places and only going to the edge once they have real opportunities to score there. I've just put in this for Aaron. It's just around, so this is if the 9 comes at us. I haven't drawn it the best, but I'll give it, is that the 9 fills into that one hole. I'm not sharing my screen right now, so I got to get back to here. Is that the 9 fills into this hole right here next to the ruck, right? And then he, you can follow my cursor, it should be there, is he comes and loops into here. If they're 9, I can't move that now. If they're 9, he's there. I didn't move the little bubble. If their 9 starts to run and brings these guys into the options, and maybe there's a guy near the ruck, a winger over here to come back in this, he just fills that gap. And he also fills in right behind the ruck until that comes. And then as soon as the ball's passed straight from 9, so the ball comes straight from 9, then he just, let me just go here. So say the ball comes straight from 9 to the attacker, then he just goes straight to the chip zone. Or if it's a 10 in behind here, he just goes straight into the chip zone because we don't need him there. The blindside guard will come over and they'll complete that role. But there's no immediate threat right here. So we don't need that. He only fills if there's immediate threat. And I'm still working with our 9s to really understand those 2 scenarios and how it can be best managed. Anything else?
Well, thank Aaron. For anybody that has to leave, thank Aaron Carpenter. Great job, Carps. Really appreciate you taking the time to show us what the Arrows are up to defensively. And we look forward to more in the future.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully you guys can take whatever percentage of this kind of stuff that you want to implement with your own team.